Hi, this is Lee.
And I'm Brandon.
And this is That's What He Said. Two self-proclaimed football geniuses, and we're going to tell you how it is, or how it was.
Yeah. Slate of big games this past weekend and everything. We're going to start right off real quick with the early games. UTEP visiting Tennessee. Tennessee pulls out a 24-0 victory. Nothing great. Just a very vanilla performance. Being at the game and seeing probably five different or so formations and a combination of maybe 15 plays. Not showing a whole lot, obviously.
No need.
Got Florida coming to town this week, so. But at the same time, still, we're able to rotate a lot of guys. They left a lot of points out there. Fumbled on the 1 yard line. Had over 500 yards of offense. Another pretty solid day from Jarrett Garantano. So, again, the score may not reflect that, but 500 yards of offense. Once again, Tennessee defensive backs look good, and we'll see where they go.
Yeah, they're moving in the right direction. This is what you want to see any SEC team do in this type of game, and I think Tennessee fans ought to be hopeful. I mean, a lot more hopeful than the likes of Florida State and some other SEC team that we're going to be talking about here in just a few.
Yes. Moving on, another team that's rolling, as you said, the Georgia Bulldogs between the hedges played host to MTSU. Georgia with a 49-7 win over the Blue Raiders. Georgia scored very quick and very often Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't showing anything either. They were putting in lots and lots of backups, getting some good experience. Georgia is a program, man. They are really where they want to be. Kirby Smart, probably ahead of schedule, I'd say. I mean, the previous administration really underperformed, and Kirby seems like he's come in and he's now taking what they had in terms of talent. I mean, Georgia has had talent for miles. And
just the whole state in general.
It's a talented state.
It's a pipeline.
It is. And Kirby Smart, Coach Smart, is really just taking advantage of it and doing what should have been done with it. I mean, he's something, and Georgia's going to be around, so Georgia fans ought to be up and down and happy.
Absolutely.
And, as an Alabama fan, not really looking forward to the day we play Georgia, which may be in the SEC championship game.
I'd say it's most definitely going to be in the SEC championship game. Individually, another solid performance from Jake Fromm. The slew of running backs that they have. Mecole Hardman, another solid game. The Georgia defense, obviously, up to the task again.
Yeah, any of their tailbacks could start anywhere. I mean, they could start anywhere. At least the ones that I've seen. I mean, they're built for it. They move. They could start anywhere. So Georgia's just the kind of SEC program we like to see,
right?
Because the SEC is the best conference, right?
Absolutely. Georgia, again, will have a big test this weekend. We'll get to picks again here, obviously, in just a bit. Would there be a post-Florida hangover for Kentucky? They're at home to take on in-state foe Murray State.
And we predicted that there would not be.
There would not be.
We predicted that.
We did predict that.
We did.
First drive, Kentucky has about an 8 or 9 play drive. 7 points on the board very quickly. It was a closer game at halftime. Not as big of a gap as you would think, and then Kentucky just flexing its muscle in the second half and running away with a 48-10 victory. Another good game.
No hangover there.
Terry Wilson. Another big game out of Benny Snell. Kentucky defense played very, very well. And
remember from our first show, I actually said I thought Kentucky would get into a bowl game this year and win 7 games. And I said they'd win an SEC game that we wouldn't be expecting them to win. And what did they do but beat Florida the first week? So they've already done it.
What do you call them? SPG? What is it again? Superior? Something geniuses. What did you call us?
I called self-proclaimed.
Self-proclaimed geniuses.
We are self-proclaimed.
We are still self-proclaimed.
Geniuses.
So the afternoon games started off with Vanderbilt traveling to South Bend to take on Notre Dame. We talked about that one a lot.
We called that the most interesting game.
The most intriguing, most interesting game of the week. Vanderbilt, honestly,
it was interesting.
Vanderbilt should have come out of there with a victory.
Vanderbilt could have won that game.
Vanderbilt fumbles down on the goal line. Vanderbilt drops a pass where the receiver would have walked right into the end zone. Kyle Shermer, what can you say about it? I mean, this is a tough kid. He's been around. He's stayed the course through the ups and downs and everything, and just a very gritty performance against a very good Notre Dame team.
Yeah. This wasn't just a week out of conference team. I mean, this is are they top 10? Notre Dame beat Michigan, the first game of the year. It's not like they're a pushover. And Vanderbilt, a few inches, one play, they could have won the game. They
Right there with
walked
them.
away.
Right there with them.
Vanderbilt fans need to hold their head up high because Vandy's showing a lot of promise. I think it's going to be a great year for Vandy. I think that the story of the SEC this year is going to be Vanderbilt and Kentucky in terms of their improvement and in terms of how they show themselves this year and looking like they are an SEC team and not just kind of the pushover games in the SEC, but that they're one of those SEC teams that out-of-conference teams don't want to play.
Right.
I mean, they're getting to that level, both those teams. And
Derek
Vanderbilt could have won that
Mason's defense, one breakdown in the secondary. The Notre Dame quarterback breaks loose, scores on a 15-yard run. Other than that,
just missed coverage.
Vandy's defense, another solid performance.
Yes.
And we'll edit that. Also, on the afternoon Saturday slate was LSU and Auburn, which was our game of the week. Obviously, a battle of the Tigers. Throughout the game, LSU scores first. Auburn comes back, scores the next 14. It just kind of went back and forth. It kind of had fans on the edge of their seats, really. If you really watched this game and saw the momentum swings with a couple of turnovers here and there, you really didn't. You didn't know what was going to happen, obviously, but you were very excited to see this fourth quarter of this game, and what a fourth quarter it ended up being.
Oh, yeah, this was the best game of the year so far, in my opinion. I mean, you have two top 15 teams, probably top 10 teams, and just back and forth, heavyweights knocking the crap out of each other. And, just when I would think that one side was pushing the other one around, all of a sudden the other one would push the other one around for a little while. It was a very back and forth game. Like you said, momentum swings. It was fun to watch if you're an outside observer. I bet there's a lot of broken-hearted Auburn fans. But this, as I said to you earlier when we were having supper at Chewy's, Coach Orgeron is here to stay, I think. And he's, like I said, he's one of my favorite guys in the country as far as football coaches. I just like to hear him talk. I want him to win because I love his post-game interview. I mean, the guy just spills his heart out. His heart's on his sleeve. He's a great guy. I'm glad they won. That has nothing to do with me being an Alabama fan and wanting Auburn to lose. It's just that I like Coach Orgeron. I think he's here to stay. I think that LSU is a team on the rise. I think they're going to be the level of the Georgia or an Alabama in the next couple of years, maybe even this year.
Does LSU now have a quarterback?
What a
step up. The Ohio State transfer comes in on that last drive. He proved why he is the guy out there. I mean, Coach Orgeron put the team on this guy's back. They had to convert several fourth downs. They were aided with a couple of pass interference calls with the tired Auburn defenders. And on fourth down, right over midfield, they needed to convert a fourth and 6, I believe, 4th and 7.
It was
something along those lines, and they get the completion. Another pass interference later, and the field goal kicker's getting a chance with 3 seconds left to win the ball game. Could not have been more straight. A low trajectory kick. I think if Auburn would have gotten a little bit more of a push, they might have had a chance to get their hands on it. Needless to say, not going to take anything away from LSU. They came into a very hostile environment, as Jordan Hare is, and they defeated a very good Auburn team. Yeah,
quarterback and a kicker with a spine of steel, nerves of steel, I guess we could say, just right when they needed to in the clutch. And it was a beautiful thing to watch. I mean, just the poise that they showed. And that'll take them a long way when you have those two skill positions, guys who are that cool under that kind of pressure in that kind of environment against an elite team. LSU is going places.
LSU up to number 6 now, I do believe.
And they deserve every bit of that.
Auburn only drops to 10, so they're still in the top 10.
Yeah,
look at the top 10 right now.
I think Auburn's a top 10 team.
Just with SEC teams.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I believe we've got 4 in there right now.
Well, let's see. We have Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Auburn. So far, I think we could have a couple more. I think that A&M could sneak in there.
I'm not sure if they're going to get in the top 10 per se, but I think, I mean, you look at the end of the year, what could be in the top 25. Missouri, if they keep winning, Missouri definitely deserves to be in there.
A&M can be in there.
A&M can be in there. South Carolina, if they can get things fixed around,
Kentucky,
they could definitely be in there.
Kentucky could be in there.
Kentucky could be in there.
So could Vanderbilt.
There as well. Moving on, North Texas goes into Fayetteville. North Texas, a 44-17 winner. What is going on down in Fayetteville right now? Now, I know there's a new head coach, a new scheme, and a new system, new play calling, 2 quarterbacks that haven't fully developed yet. But what is going on in Fayetteville?
Well, as we talked about earlier, maybe this is just a big-time system change, taking some investment in the future as far as expectations go. That's really all I can think of, because there was a lot of expectation with the new program coming in.
There's a lot of expectations with Brett Bielema being a great coach that he is and everything, and somehow those expectations just weren't met. Where does Arkansas go from here? This was a 44-17 final. It was a 44-10 game with under a minute to go. Arkansas breaks loose on a 60, 70-yard run to make it look 44-17. So only really 1 touchdown throughout the game.
Yeah, it's really just unacceptable. We dismissed the game last week. We just said, moving right along, it'll be a big win for Arkansas. I think everybody did. So this is a big letdown, and to say that it's not would just be buttering the roll too much, because Arkansas is just not looking the part of
I will say that the play of the year right now may have happened in that game. The punt return that North Texas had, where he catches the ball, just kind of dances with it.
As though he had fair caught it.
As though he had fair
had no intention of running.
Arkansas players walked off. I'm actually surprised that the officials did not blow that dead.
Right. Because
from where we are in college football now, and how some of these officials have a quick whistle, one may not have seen it, an inadvertent whistle. I'm really surprised we didn't see it there.
Yeah.
But what an unbelievable play for North Texas. And that just set the stage, and the route was on.
Yeah, and you have to wonder if the NCAA is maybe going to step in and say you can't fake a fair catch call, because some guys are going to get hurt. Because now,
think about the gunners are taught to run downhill fast. They don't see it. They don't see a hand go up. They're taught to lay out their receiver.
Right. Yeah, and if the guy's having to decide if it's a trick or not, somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to think he called a fair catch and he's going to get hit standing straight up. A defender is going to think it's a fair catch and it's not, and then you get. I just don't think that's the intent of the fair catch capability. And I think the NCAA might step in and start saying, if there's question and it looks like you're trying to trick the other team, it's going to be called a fair catch. To me, that makes sense for safety, and that's not the intent of the ability to call a fair catch.
Right.
It's not to use it to do a trick play.
Right.
You can't be deceptive when you're doing something for your own safety. It's a little ridiculous. So I wouldn't be surprised if this, especially if this happens again, with another game, that the NCAA does not work on some rulings.
I have a feeling that North Texas punt returner will do that one time this year, and he's already done. That won't happen again from North
That'll
Texas.
be on tape for a lot of teams to see. Yeah.
Next, Colorado State ventures down to the Swamp to take on Florida. Florida 48-10 winner over Colorado State. Colorado State really making it interesting in the first quarter as they got 2 good drives inside the Florida 30-yard line, elected to kick 2 field goals, both of which were no good. Florida's offense coming out, again, stagnant, not being able to move the ball. Frank's not really wanting to throw the ball down the middle of the field. And then after 2 missed opportunities for Colorado State, Florida's offense kind of settled in the second quarter, got a turnover, and the route was kind of on from halftime. But again, Florida cannot afford these slow starts. And at some point it's going to catch up to them. I'm not saying it's going to be this weekend against Tennessee per se.
Well,
but
it already has caught up with them.
Against Kentucky, you're right. At some point, though, Florida is going to have to start off stronger. Florida's going to have to be able to run the ball. They can't just be one-dimensional. Give Mike Bobo's crew from Colorado State credit. They came down there, and for the first quarter and a half, you were starting to think, man, is Florida going to fall into the same trap it did last week? And then finally they start getting in rhythm a little bit. Felipe gets a couple of passes downfield, finally a couple of completions. Finally get the offense rolling a little bit. So Florida's 2-1 now. What has Florida got to do at this point offensively?
Just balance, more confidence. The system's got to be in better place. I mean, they don't look like a Dan Mullen team at the moment. They don't seem to react as quickly. They seem like it's taking them a while to figure out what they are going to be doing on the next play. I mean, the communication, all that stuff. You can chalk it up to a new system, and I think that's the case. I think a little bit of pressure's gone with Kentucky beating them early.
Mm-hmm.
Now they can really have to focus, work in practice, think one game at a time, all that stuff. So, and sometimes an early loss is a blessing in disguise, and usually it doesn't end up hurting you at the end of the year. You can still get into bowl games with that early loss, right. Whereas if you lose late, it's obviously more problematic. But I think that a Florida team that really improves every week, by the end of the year, that they could be really where they want to be, interestingly enough, with a loss to Kentucky.
Well, we talked last week. I mean, the talent's there.
Oh,
Florida's
yeah.
got the talent.
Yep.
Offensively, they've got a quarterback. He's got to come into his own a little bit more. Van Jefferson now settling in as kind of the go-to receiver for Felipe Franks. Scarlett, a fairly good night, but again, it didn't get off starting like it needed to. They waited till the second quarter to get started, and at some point, that's going to really hurt.
Well, it could be a blessing in disguise if they start slow and there's more incentive to work hard. They're playing for pride now because they do have that Kentucky loss. A lot of times it's a lot easier to build players up than it is to humble them when they're too arrogant and they think that all they have to do is show up to win the game. So I think Florida's probably going to really improve the rest of the season, and they're going to be a powerhouse under Dan Mullen. I still don't think that that's a concern. I get they lost to Kentucky early, but Kentucky's got a stable system. They've had the same head coach now 6-7 years.
Stoops has been there a while. Yeah.
So of course Kentucky is really, if we think about it, maybe we shouldn't be so surprised Kentucky beat Florida after all, just because it's a brand new system, first game, and they had to play an SEC team, and it's not like Kentucky doesn't have talent, and it's not like Kentucky's going to roll over. So I don't think that reflects poorly on Florida. I think we've just got a team under a new system who's working hard and is going to get there.
It is yet to be seen. It's a work in progress. Moving right along, a team that is not a work in progress, a team that is yet to be seen. Alabama gets a 62-7 win. We talked about this game a good amount last week. My prediction was Ole Miss would come out strong. They would look good on the sideline. They would be ready to come out of the tunnel. The crowd would be electric. And I was right. But the other part of my prediction was Bama was going to roll and roll and roll all night.
There was that other part of that prediction.
There was the other part of that prediction. This is and honestly, I've been thinking about this throughout the week, kind of how I wanted to talk about this on the air here. This is the best, not just the best Alabama team that I've ever seen. In my 32 years of being here, this is the best Alabama team I've ever seen. But I'll take it a step further. This is the most complete and best college football team that I have ever seen. You can't. I will welcome any rivals to that because there's nothing this team can't do well. They are good in all three phases. They're phenomenal on offense, phenomenal on defense, and their special teams finds a way to get into the act every week. They have kickers that kick it through the end zone. Nobody gets a chance to return it unless they directional kick it. They want to try to pin somebody deep. Field goal kickers are coming around. The defense finds a way to score every game. And the offense, it doesn't matter. We said this last week. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Right now, Jalen Hurts is getting more playing time than Tua. If you look at the number of snaps these guys are getting to play. Now, you brought up last week that there's a possibility Jalen could be looking to redshirt. We'll definitely find out after this next week.
Right, new NCAA rule
in college football.
4 games. After the first 4, a decision has to be made. But I tell you what, Jalen looked really good. And you talk about a quarterback who is 21 or 23-2, 21-2, somewhere in there. I can't remember the exact numbers.
As a starter.
27-2. National title under his belt, 2 national title appearances, and yet he's beat out. How good is Tua Tagovailoa?
Say it one more time.
Tagovailoa. When you're talking about Alabama, you're talking about a team that you can't scheme for. You can't prepare for a scheme and overcompensate. You have to prepare to play perfectly just to defend them. And it just doesn't work. Tua thinks ahead. He's reading the defenses. He's going 4 and 5, 6 deep in his checks. I mean, this guy, it's as though his brain was just made to be a quarterback, as though God said, quarterback brain. I mean, that's the way it is. And the thing is, it's not that Jalen Hurts is a bad quarterback at all. He's won a national title. I mean, if you saw in the game.
Even in the championship game that they got beat, he still has a phenomenal game.
Right.
Clemson just makes a play with 1 second left.
Yeah, that's right. He was incredible in that game. And if you watched the Ole Miss game, he looked sensational. He was throwing the ball middle of the field. He was reading 2 and 3 deep as well. He was reading off his checks, and so he's improved as a quarterback. But yeah, when the other teams this year will be looking to prepare for Alabama, they will have to basically play to defend everything, and they will have to play against a defense that's possibly the best in the nation. So Alabama's really looking good right now. As an Alabama fan, it's exciting. And I keep telling my kids, it's not always this way. You don't just go out and win every game and the national title almost every year.
You don't just become good overnight.
Right, and it doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't last forever. So Alabama fans, we need to enjoy it now because it is fleeting, and one day it may be Tennessee that we're talking about having stacked offense and stacked defense and asking if they're a juggernaut or if they can be beat. So it's interesting.
So
Tagovailoa.
A curveball. I'm just going to throw in here. If Jalen Hurts red shirts, does that also, in the sense, mean transfer?
I don't think so. I think he's thinking that Tua could go to the NFL after next year, and then he would have his senior year to start with 2 seasons under his belt and having played the backup and being in the system that he could win the starting job.
If he redshirts this year, next year he would just be a redshirted sophomore.
Right, which would mean if Tua left after next year, he could play. You're saying he could have 2 years.
Yeah.
Yes, good point. If that's what he wanted to do, that would make perfect sense. And he could work on the elements of his game where he's been lacking, which has been where Tua excelled, which is reading down the receivers, following off your checks, and not just flushing the pocket whenever there's pressure, but stepping up in the pocket, making a throw, even being willing to take the hit, and he's definitely improved on that. I think that in a few years we could be talking about how Jalen Hurts could be in the Heisman running. I mean, he's a very talented guy. We forget that because Tua stepped in and saved the day and won the spot. But give Jalen a couple of years, and we may be talking about him as glowingly as we do Tua. Can you say it?
Tagovailoa.
Close enough.
Tagovailoa.
There you go. You got it.
But again, you look at this Alabama offense, there's just not a weakness anywhere. Right. The offensive line is gelled together. The offensive line is a united front. The trio of running backs that they have, and the receivers all over the field. My favorite receiver, again, we talk about him every week, Jerry Jeudy. Another great game against Ole Miss. Everybody got in on the scoring act. Everybody was where they were supposed to be. There was one play. This may have been the first or second touchdown Alabama scored. They just line up, and all 4 receivers just run 4 vertical routes. Ole Miss was showing a blitz look, and they back off of it, and Jeudy just flat out beat the secondary. And Tua threw it to a spot where he knew it was going to be, and it could not have been more in sync. Everything about that play was perfect. Judy's speed just outruns the Ole Miss defender. Another easy Alabama. I mean, they just make it look so easy.
Throwing it to a spot like that reminds me of Warfel. Now, he puts more heat on the ball than Warfel did, but in terms of being able to know that spot's open and my guy can get there, that was where Warfel really, really excelled.
So Tua and Jeudy and the other great receivers there. Think about the receivers that Danny Warfel was throwing to. Ike Hilliard, Jaquez Green, Rydell Anthony.
That's impressive.
3 phenomenal. Hey, SEC.
I know.
So you think about that too, throwing to a spot. Look at those 3 weapons.
He knew they could get there. Yeah, he knew that spot's open. He can get there.
Right.
And that's a talent in and of itself, is to know who you have, who you're throwing to, and that they can get there. And I think Tagovailoa has the same kind of mind for that. I think Tagovailoa would have been a Steve Spurrier dream come true. You know what I'm saying?
I totally agree. Can Alabama score 50 every game this year?
I think they could. I don't think they will.
I legitimately think they can. You tell me who's the team outside of the SEC championship and the regular season.
Yeah.
Auburn may be the only team.
Yeah, Auburn. Does Alabama play LSU?
Alabama plays LSU.
Okay, so LSU and Auburn may be the 2 that could throw.
Texas A&M this weekend could be possibility. I think they still may score 50. Texas A&M has the ability to score too, so it may not be just a runaway game like some of these other games. I still look at that score, 62-7. That's just unbelievable. And really Ole Miss is not a pushover team.
No, they're not. Very good offense. Very
good offense. Obviously needs some defense there, but still. a team that can score at ease. Moving along, the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana head down to Starkville to take on Mississippi State. Nick Fitzgerald finding his own, scored 4 times on the ground, I believe. I believe he either tied or broke Tim Tebow's. I believe he tied Tim Tebow's rushing record for career touchdowns on the ground in this game Saturday night. He's still got a whole season left. He's still got the rest of the season left. Mississippi State gets the win 56-10. Again, the running game, whether it be the running back or the quarterback play, it was there all night. Louisiana not much of an opponent right now, and Mississippi State gets a solid win. Cowbells rang all night.
I agree.
Good deal. Moving right along to a game that was played later in the afternoon Saturday, a revenge game as Missouri heads to Purdue. We talked about this on the show last week. Purdue not just beat, but really embarrassed.
It was ugly
Missouri,
last year.
35-3 last year at Missouri. And so Missouri gets the opportunity to go to Purdue to return the favor. This is a back-and-forth game. Purdue finally woke up. Remember, we talked about that last weekend with Purdue, seeing them week 1 against Northwestern, just stagnant on offense, a lot of turnovers, a big turnover before halftime. Northwestern just seemingly played to that ability. They just took advantage of what Purdue was giving them. And in this game, this was just a back-and-forth heavyweight battle. Couple of seconds left in the game, tied at 30-37. Missouri gets the opportunity to kick field goal. They walk away with a 40-37 win. Another big day for Drew Lock. For Emmanuel Hall, the receiver. The running game with Crockett. It's not to the point of Alabama. I don't think there's any argument there. This is a great offense that Missouri has.
It is, and as we've talked about a little bit, Drew Lock making his case for Heisman. And I'm curious, what do you think the list of Heisman candidates is in the SEC? I would say Drew Lock. I would say Tua Tagovailoa.
Tua is definitely there. There's no question.
Do we have
Drew
others?
Lock? I would say either Jake Fromm or McCole Hardman. McCole Hardman keeps scoring the way he does. His name will be in there.
Right.
It's not going to matter though.
It's not as pretty. It's not pretty enough for a Heisman, right?
I mean,
it should be. I'm just saying.
Tua could take the rest of the year off and he'll still get all the first place votes. Tua is that good. Right now, Tua is definitely one of your top ones. Outside of the SEC, I still like the kid from Oklahoma, Kyler Murray, the quarterback, stepping right into the starting role to replace Baker Mayfield. He hasn't missed a beat.
No, not a bit.
This kid can run that Oklahoma offense.
Brainiac.
He is, and it's just impressive to watch. Now, Oklahoma, they were tested well over the weekend with Iowa State, kind of a revenge game from last year as well. Oklahoma's only got a couple of real big opportunities to play a team on an elite scale, prime time in front of the country and what have you. Whereas in the SEC, Tua's going to be under the spotlight every Saturday night.
Yeah.
Drew Lock going to be under the spotlight every single night. And we said last week, if Missouri continues to win, he's got to be his name has to at least be in the mix. Because if they're winning, Drew Lock is putting up incredible numbers.
Right. It would make no sense if Drew Lock was not in the conversation. It would not. Something would be amiss, as it was when Peyton Manning was denied the Heisman after having what? Did he double Heisman winner from the previous season? Who would that have been? Danny Warfel.
Danny Warfel.
And he basically doubled the production numbers of Warfel and was denied a Heisman Trophy. One of the great tragedies of the 20th century.
That's coming from an Alabama fan. Finishing the nightcap with Louisiana Monroe at Texas A&M. Texas A&M looked good in this game. 48-10 winner. The score may not reflect it as much, but a lot of yards on offense for A&M. Kellen Mond again looks great. Travion Williams, another big game for him as well. A&M rolls to a 48-10 win.
Yeah, A&M's a great team, and a play or two separates them from having an unbeaten year and defeating a team that participated in the national championship game last year. So right. A&M is legit, and the SEC is boiling with teams this year that are talent. and that can compete nationally with anybody. So it's an exciting time to be an SEC fan, and A&M has got a lot to look forward to. I think they are moving in the right direction in a hurry.
Right. So last week we did a little segment where people could message us in, and again, please continue watching these videos. Again, thank y'all for your support. When you click the subscribe button, drop us a comment. Let us know, again, if we're talking about your team enough, if you want to hear more, if you just got questions you want us to answer here on the show, we'll be more than happy to do it. We had a Tennessee and a Florida fan give us a message last week. This week we got a question from Jay Harris. Jay, on Twitter, it's JH Harris22. JH Harris22, a very big Vanderbilt Commodore fan. Jay wants to know kind of what we've talked about here in the last couple of weeks. What do you think about Derek Mason's defense as a whole?
Well, as a self-proclaimed genius, I'm going to say that Derek Mason is making the most of. He's got a lot of talented guys, but he doesn't have the selection that most SEC teams do. And Derek Mason has got a system that he has coached these guys very well to work within. And if you watch the Notre Dame game, then you saw a defensive team that was working well as a unit. They were exceptionally well coached. They oftentimes would move to the side of the field. They knew the ball was going there. I mean, these guys are smart. They've been coached well. They're talented. Hey, they're going to Vanderbilt. Of course they're smart. So I love Derek Mason's defense. I think he's an outstanding coach, and I hope he is successful at Vanderbilt. I think that he will be, and I think he'll be there for a while. I think a lot of them, and like I said, I'm a closet Vanderbilt fan. I mean, we're here in Nashville, and it's exciting when Vandy's winning. And I know that maybe it's a little bit of a sore spot for you, but it is what it is. And so that's my... Again,
it's about, for me, more or less, it's about the SEC as a whole. Vanderbilt has beaten Tennessee 4 out of the last 6 years. That's not something that you have heard a lot about.
Right.
But, a lot of that is having to do with the exiting of James Franklin and the entering of Derek Mason. So, obviously... definitely exciting time to be a Vanderbilt fan. Kyle Shermer, what a leader he's turned into. We talked about that briefly. Kalijah Lipscomb, Keyshawn Vaughn. They have the tools on offense. Okay, but again, this defense is for real.
Now, Shermer, if he were starting or playing, if he were starting anywhere else in the SEC, I think we'd be hearing his name weekly. It would be in the same sentences as Drew Lock, maybe Tua Tagovailoa, maybe Fromm. I think we'd be hearing his name. But because he's at Vanderbilt, the respect isn't there. Would you agree with that?
I would agree.
I don't think
Vanderbilt, unfortunately, probably doesn't get the respect that they deserve, just because of the reputation over the years of kind of being the doormat to the SEC. Well, that's kind of shifted, to Tennessee.
It reminds me of a certain Vanderbilt quarterback who played for Chicago Bears for a little while.
Could you be talking about Jay Cutler?
I could be. Yeah, could be.
Obviously one of the better quarterbacks in Vanderbilt history.
Yeah.
Definitely a good one. Jay, again, we appreciate your question. Again, that's JH Harris22 on Twitter. Give him a follow, shoot him a message. Again, a very good and a very loyal Vanderbilt fan. You want to do some picks?
I do.
Let's do some picks then. Let's get to it. Week 4 of college football in the SEC. We'll start out with the early games this week. Kent State 1-2 taking on 2-1 Ole Miss. Ole Miss big.
Yeah. I think Ole Miss is playing to show that they're not what they look like playing against an elite team.
Kent State had a very tough time with Penn State, being able to get just anything going. Penn State, obviously, a good team. Kent State, I just don't think can bring much on. Now, again, last weekend, Southern Illinois puts up 41 points on Ole Miss. So Ole Miss just has the ability to outscore everybody that doesn't have a defense. So again, I say Ole Miss big.
Yeah, Ole Miss.
I think that happens as well. Also, the 11 o'clock game, Georgia travels to Missouri. Now, this could be a really interesting game.
Could be.
Both teams 3-0. Line on the game right now, Georgia 14-point favorite. To me, that's an interesting number. because that could either go that could go either way. I think. I don't think it's going to be a 17-point game or anything like that. I think it's going to either be a close game, or most people are probably going to pick Georgia big. I learned my lesson week 1. We talk a lot about Drew Lock, talk a lot about a little bit about the Missouri defense and what have you, but the offense just shines. The offense is what makes that team goes. I think Drew Lock and Emmanuel Hall and Crockett, the running back, have a good amount of success Saturday. I just don't think it's enough. I think Georgia wins pretty big.
I do give the edge to Georgia. It's a little bit of the case of an immovable object being run into by an unstoppable object. Which one's going to give? And in the case of Drew Lock, I think that he's going to play admirably. Does he have enough weapons at his disposal to beat the Georgia defense, which last year was a top 5 defense and a national championship contributor? That's a tall order, and I just don't believe it's going to happen.
Moving on, Louisiana Tech headed down to LSU. Not very many miles in between either one of those schools. Both teams undefeated. LSU currently a 21-point favorite. I think LSU definitely covers. I think LSU wins this game.
LSU big, yeah, no doubt.
Arkansas, after an abysmal start to the season, 1-2, they head down to Jordan-Hare to take on Auburn. Obviously, Auburn looking to bounce back.
Somebody's going to pay, and I think Arkansas is going to pay for Auburn losing.
I think Auburn at this point, being in the top 10 still, they still have to make a play and make a save for the college football playoff. Obviously, you're going to have to go through Alabama to win the SEC championship game. They play at the end of the year. Auburn still plenty of time to make changes. Auburn still plenty of time to get better. Offensively, they're very well coached. Offensively, they're very talented.
Smart,
Jared Stidham at quarterback. I think Auburn by 30. I'd say it's more than that. I think Auburn absolutely takes Arkansas to the woodshed.
Yeah, I'd say 30 with Auburn putting the brakes on at the end, getting some guys some playing time, and just being classy and not running up the score. So
right.
Auburn big, and it could get ugly, just ugly.
Number 14, Mississippi State heads into Lexington to take on the Kentucky Wildcats. Mississippi State comes in as a 10-point favorite. Both teams undefeated. Who wins it?
I'm going to call Kentucky. I'm going to call
Kentucky pulling off the
Kentucky beating Mississippi State.
I definitely think it's an interesting matchup as far as Kentucky has the ability to keep this game close. I think their defense is getting better each week and everything. Benny Snell, though. Benny Snell will be the difference in any game that they play this year. If the offensive line continues to block how they do, and Benny Snell continues to be, he's such a patient runner, which is what I think gives him, the nod over some of the other good running backs in the SEC. It's just his patience and his vision and his trust in his offensive line. I'm going to go with you. I think Kentucky pulls the upset. Nick Fitzgerald obviously not taking anything away from him, but at some point some breaks are going to have to give. This could be a special teams play here or two. But I think Kentucky. I'm with you. I think the crowd's going to be loud for a 6 o'clock kickoff. I think Kentucky pulls the upset.
Yeah, I think Kentucky is finally taking themselves seriously, and so I think we're going to see these guys really play at a different level because they believe they can play with elite SEC teams now. They're taking themselves seriously, and I'm excited about this game. I want to see Kentucky win. I enjoy that kind of thing. So I think Kentucky's going to win big. I take that back. It would be a big win for Kentucky. I'm not saying they're going to win big, but I think it's going to be a big win for Kentucky, even if it's by a touchdown.
Right. Moving right along, Saturday afternoon, South Carolina ventures down to Nashville to take on Vanderbilt. South Carolina currently a 2-point favorite in this game. Who do you like?
Vanderbilt.
That's it.
Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's the same thing Kentucky is right now as far as they are taking themselves seriously. I think that they're really confident in the program, and I think that Derek Mason is going to make sure that they capitalize on games where they have a legit opportunity to win, and this is one of them. I don't want to say anything bad about any coaches, but I'm wondering if maybe the game is beginning to pass by certain coaches, and we'll see. But I think that Vanderbilt's going to be a big winner here.
I'm on the other side of it this week for several reasons. One, I think South Carolina Still looking to prove who they are in the SEC from that week 2 matchup against Georgia, where it just got out of control in the second play with the pick six, and South Carolina could never really get back in a groove. South Carolina obviously affected by the hurricane and everything. They don't get to play. They're hungry to play somebody. They're tired of going against their own guys in practice. They're tired of hitting their own guys. They want to hit somebody else. I've got South Carolina Saturday. I do think it's going to be a close game. Again, Jake Bentley, Debo Samuel, 2 guys that'll be impact players in this game for sure. I do think it's a close game. A couple of costly turnovers. Very likely in this game, in my opinion. I think South Carolina wins a close game, and we'll just see.
All right, agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree. Florida makes the trip north to Knoxville as the Gators at 2-1 come in as a 4.5-point favorite against the home team Tennessee and Jeremy Pruitt. What do you think?
Well, I hate to hurt your feelings, but I do think Florida's going to win this game. Nothing against Tennessee or the direction they're going. I think Florida's just too much right now as far as the recruiting has been good to Florida, and I think that the system is beginning to recover a little bit from being beat by Kentucky. I think that was some shock therapy. I think that they will beat Tennessee. I think Tennessee is going to play tough though, because I think that they're hungry and they're being coached better. But I think Florida's going to have a little too much for Tennessee.
That's so funny.
Come here and lay down. Come here and lay down. Lay down. Brandon's going to think you're crazy.
Obviously, this is obviously a fun matchup, as it always is, being a fan and everything, and always getting to see this rival in person when it's in Knoxville. I've been to the Swamp twice. Very electric place to watch a game. This is what I honestly think is gonna happen. Right now, I don't think there's an argument, just because of what I have seen from these teams play the first 3 ball games. I think Tennessee's quarterback situation and receivers right now are better than what Florida has. But at the same time, the offensive line keeps getting ridiculed, this, and that. The offensive line in Florida, I would say, is probably a little bit better. I like our running game as well. The defense has been settling in. Right now, Florida's a 4.5-point favorite. That would lead you to believe Florida should probably beat Tennessee Saturday. I'm going to go with Jeremy Pruitt getting his first big win at Tennessee. And I think Tennessee pulls out a very close game. To me, this could easily be a low-scoring game with the opportunity of somebody of either team to kick a field goal at the end of the game to win. I think Tennessee finds a way to get it done. The crowd will be absolutely hostile. If this game was at Florida, no question, I would have to give the edge to Florida. The fact that it's in Knoxville, Rocky Top will rule Saturday night. I've got Tennessee in a close game.
Could be. This game could go either way, so we'll see.
And now on to our game of the week. Texas A&M heads to Tuscaloosa to take on the almighty Crimson Tide of Alabama and Nick Saban. Currently, Alabama 26.5-point favorite. No, you didn't misunderstand that. 26.5-point favorite right now. Alabama wins.
They do. I think A&M's going to have difficulty moving the ball, and I think A&M's going to have difficulty stopping the ball when Alabama has it. And so I think that's what most teams are going to face this year, and I just don't think A&M has enough firepower. Alabama will wear them down. It's almost one of those things you just call inevitable. And so Alabama, pretty big.
Score.
I'll say Alabama 57, A&M 17.
17. 40-point victory for Nick Saban.
I believe so.
Like it.
What do you think? Score?
I actually think it's going to be a little bit closer. I do think A&M will cover the spread. I think Kellen Mond can move around enough and the receivers come back to the ball, very similar to the way that they did to Clemson. Travion Williams is going to have to be a factor somehow. If they run screens, if they run counter, draw, whatever. But they're going to have to look on film ways that they can try to outman Alabama's defense on one side. You're not going to outman Alabama's defense as a whole. But you control the clock. You get some things going on the ground. You keep the chains moving. And at least if you're not scoring, you kick it, punt it deep, make them go 80 and 90 yards. If they can do that, then they definitely deserve to win the game. I'm going to say final score. I'm going to say this is the one game that they don't score 50. I'm going to say they score 49. I'm going to say 49. I'm going to say 49-24.
You think that A&M can find mismatches?
I still think that Alabama's secondary is a little bit suspicious. You're just not seeing it a whole lot because that front seven gets to the quarterback so quick.
Relentless.
First play of the Ole Miss game, receiver pulls a double move, 75-yard touchdown, place is electric. Then Alabama got the ball.
Yeah.
And now I think we both think A&M's a much better team. The climb that they're taking each week, what Jimbo's being able to do with that offense, what Jimbo's being able to do with the quarterback play, you'll see that's going to be evident in this game. But in the end, it's way too much Alabama.
All right.
So
Game of the week.
We'll be back same time next week. Again, please hit that subscribe button. We love hearing y'all's comments. Again, we love your support. Keep it up. Keep it coming.
Yeah, hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when we have new shows come out. And like us too. Tell your friends. Thank you for watching. This has been That's What He Said. I'm Lee and this is Brandon. Hope your team wins this week.